one part about working with IFS is the belief system that we all have self-energy. And that just means we all have a part of us that is kind of that most connected, the most, we have the most clarity about who we are. It's when we kind of feel, I call it balanced and in flow. Um, and you kind of know when you're in balance and in flow. So there is an element of IFS that we have to, along with the client and myself, we have to identify a little bit about their self energy, and how they know they're in self energy, how they know that they're feeling calm and that they're feeling connected and that they feel they can communicate. There's a lot of C's involved. We call it the 8 C's of IFS, but for me, the biggest part of that is compassion and curiosity. So one of the main things I do with my clients is, as we're learning more about their parts and about the things that they have done for themselves to keep themselves safe in challenging times, we also begin to identify when they have felt like themselves, when they felt compassion for themselves, curiosity towards the parts that are showing up. That's kind of the main function of IFS, is to really allow the client to slow down and be able to turn a little bit of compassion and curiosity toward what's going on for them. So as an example, maybe as a child, vulnerable feelings weren't something you were allowed to have. Maybe you were told, don't cry, like, you're fine, you can do it, you're fine, don't cry, don't feel vulnerable emotions. That would become then an exiled feeling. I'm not supposed to feel vulnerable. I'm not supposed to feel sad. So though that feeling would become unsafe for you, there come the parts, right? So the parts would show up to push away that feeling of vulnerability and sadness. Sometimes that might look like numb. Sometimes that might look like depression. It might even, for a lot of my clients, there's self-injurious clients. I have a lot of clients that have suffered with self-harm. Those are the parts that are showing up to keep you safe from that feeling of vulnerability and that feeling of sadness. And as you can see from that example, the parts can become harmful to us. And that leads us hopefully into therapy. And then we begin to access those parts. We access that exiled feeling in a safe and controlled environment, so that the client can then turn compassion and curiosity towards that time in their life when they weren't allowed to feel that feeling of sadness or vulnerability. So we're not only learning more about the parts and the system that they have created to keep you safe, but we're also learning about your self-energy, and the fact that you can then begin to unblend from that exiled feeling, unblend from those parts that have taken over, and become more yourself and become more connected to your self-energy.